Who was the mysterious man in the iron mask? This enigmatic figure has captured the imagination of people for centuries, inspiring countless books, films, and legends. Why was this anonymous man imprisoned by King Louis XIV? And why for so long? What on earth had he done to deserve that? And why was he doomed to hide his identity? On 28th of July 1669, a warrant was put out for the arrest of someone known by the pseudonym Eustache de Jure. The unidentified man was then incarcerated on the 24th of August and was held for a staggering 34 years in 4 successive French prisons, including the famous Bastille, and from start to finish under the custody of the same jailer, Bénigne de Verge de Sainte-Mars. The man passed away on 19th of November 1703, and his inhumation certificate showed the name of Marcololi, which led many to suspect his identity to be that of an Italian diplomat, Ercole Antonio Mattioli, one of many names associated with the true identity of this man, and of course never confirmed. The man's face was consistently covered. However, it has been said that it was covered only by black velvet and not actually by an iron mask, and he didn't actually wear the velvet mask all the way through his stay. Mainly it was just when he was being moved, and it is said he was forced to wear it more when his case was receiving attention from the outside. Official documents reveal he also wore the velvet mask when he was invited to say prayers at the Bastille prison. Modern historians are very clear that the velvet mask was only really needed when there was potential for him to be seen, and it was imposed by his jailer Sainte-Mars as he wanted to increase his own prestige at the end of his career and not reveal the identity of his most important prisoner. On orders of King Louis, his minister wrote to Sainte-Mars in July of 1669 and informed him that a prisoner was on the way. He instructed Sainte-Mars to prepare a cell with multiple doors, one closing upon the other, which would stop anyone from outside ever listening in. Sainte-Mars was told to attend to the prisoner once a day to provide food. Mars was strictly advised that if the prisoner spoke of anything other than his immediate needs, he should be killed, but also that they didn't expect the prisoner to require much attention. This unknown man's first prison stay was at Pignerol, a site used to hold men who were considered a disgrace and embarrassment to the state. Sainte-Mars spoke of the prisoner upon meeting him as a quiet man who was no trouble and was dedicated to the will of God and the king. It's so strange to imagine that this man, who was not allowed to be seen by anyone and was under incredible surveillance, more than probably a lot of other prisoners, was actually a pleasant man who was dedicated to the king. The whole thing has left us scratching our heads because, of course, if he was this good prisoner, what was the terrible thing or the terrible tendencies that were so bad he had to be put away for his entire life? Due to this good behaviour, Sainte-Mars applied for permission for the man to act as a servant for one of the wealthy prisoners, who was entitled to manservants. The king signed this off, but on the strict conditions that the man only speak to or tend to his master when absolutely needed, and he was not to meet anyone else. Many floated around the theory that the man was the king's brother, although many historians have argued the fact that the prisoner became a manservant, and that meant he was certainly not high class or an aristocrat, and he would not be suggested for that sort of job if he was any kind of royalty. In 1681, Sainte-Mars moved to the excise fort prison in Italy, taking the gentleman with him. It was during this journey that rumours began to spread that the man was spotted wearing an iron mask. Again, he was placed in a cell with multiple doors under the same conditions he had always been. Finally, the man was brought to the Bastille prison in Paris in September of 1698, as Sainte-Mars had accepted a post as the governor. He was now jailed in a solitary cell in the third chamber of the tower. One of the officers of the Bastille, Lieutenant Dujonca, was on record saying the man wore a mask of black velvet in all the time he knew him. The ill-fated man passed away on 19th of November 1703, with no one ever knowing, except for a select few, his mysterious identity. Of course, there is the theory about this being the king's twin brother. French novelist Marcel Pagnol stated in 1965 that the man in the so-called Iron Mask was actually a twin who was born second, and hence the younger, and would have had to be hidden away in order to avoid any dispute over who was entitled to the throne. Marcel claims the twin was born in 1638 and then grew up on the island of Jersey. He would then later conspire against King Louis, which ended up being the reason for his arrest. Keeping it in the family, British historian Hugh Ross Williamson made the argument that the man was in fact the natural father of Louis XIV. He suggested Louis was not actually the son of the king, and when it was discovered, the real father was stored away so he could not share this information. However, this theory hasn't been taken very seriously by fellow historians, as there is not much evidence for it. Believe it or not, some have even suggested the man was in fact a woman, the daughter of Louis XIV and Anne of Austria. Thinking they would never have a son, the theory is that they hid away their daughter and chose a boy to replace her, who they brought up as Louis XV. One of the most favoured potential identities, especially in the 1800s, was fellow prisoner Count Ercole Antonio Mattioli, an Italian diplomat who worked on behalf of the debt-crippled Charles IV, Duke of Mantua, in 1678. Mattioli was trying to set up a sale of Casale, a strategic town near the border, to France. However, Mattioli got greedy and leaked the details to France's Spanish enemies, and after pocketing his commission, made a bid with them to take it over before the French could. Mattioli was then kidnapped by the French and thrown into prison. The French then proceeded to claim Casale during his incarceration. British politician George Agell Ellis was a big proponent for Mattioli being the mystery man, after he reviewed several documents extracted from French archives in the 1820s. German historian Wilhelm Broking, interestingly, came to the same conclusion also, as well as Scottish author Robert Chambers. However, since then, letters from St. Mars have been discovered that indicated Mattioli was held only at Pignerol and Sainte-Marguerite, and was not detained at Aix or Bastille, as the mystery man was. So many argue that he can be dismissed as a serious contender for the identity. While the name Eustache d'Auger was originally a pseudonym for the unknown man, many believe Eustache was actually his name. Auger was suggested to possibly be a valet for Rue de Marcelli, a Frenchman who was trying to build up a Protestant alliance against France. Marcelli was publicly executed in Paris in 1669, with his valet thrown into prison. This would provide a premise for d'Auger being so heavily guarded and concealed, the fact that he knew some dastardly plots and secrets, and was imprisoned to divulge them. While we may never know for sure who was the man in the Iron Mask or why he was imprisoned, his story remains a mainstay for historians and mystery enthusiasts. It's a case that has persisted for over 300 years, and it is certainly fascinating when in today's modern world we still have not worked out some of the most important answers to the questions of yesterday. Whoever this man was, it's a tragedy he was forced to live in such sad circumstances when it was not even clear what his crime was. So was this a major injustice? An insane king doing whatever he could to hang on to power? Or indeed a very dangerous prisoner who deserved what he got? Whatever the truth is, even in many years to come, we will keep on asking questions, carry on researching, and continue seeking answers.